So, have I got this right, Maya, that you actually live in the UK and you travel to Croatia to work? You work at the university there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that would be a couple of hour flight?
2 hours flight.
2 hours, yeah. And you do that, what, once a week or not every day, surely?
Once a week, once a week.
Mm.
But I think if it wasn't for my parents, I would quit.
Right.
My husband's my husband's salary would be enough
Yep.
for us.
Right. So when you go
So
there, you visit your parents.
I'm staying with them. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I do have my apartment, but it's rented now, and I stay with them because
Yeah, yeah.
they want to see me. I want to see them. I want to check on them. And
Right, yeah, yeah.
I'm taking my mom to a doctor on Thursday this week, so there's always something to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it for a busy lifestyle for you, doesn't it?
Oh yes, yes.
So one of the things that's sometimes it's valuable to remind people that this stuff that we're doing isn't separate from our normal daily life. It's something to integrate into it or something to integrate our normal daily life into.
At the moment, it is my normal daily life. It includes flying. It includes being with my parents.
Yes, yes, and of course these are all opportunities, aren't they?
Yes, yes, yes.
So as we've been trained in our experience of life to be goal oriented, do you now find that you're more interested in what's currently happening rather than any future end goal?
Interestingly, I just had the discussion with my husband. Um, Somehow, you remember last time we talked about what will be with my parents and what will be with my mom, and I said, I understand I don't have to make a decision because a decision will make itself, something will happen, and then I'll have to deal with it, whatever it is. Okay, but now at the same time today, I started thinking about what will be with my job, with my position. If I well, I'm and when Marius was here, we were talking about burnout, and I had at least three at my job, and I'm really not motivated anymore. And now I have 2 years until because my position is not, it is permanent in some respect, but on the other hand, every 5 years I have an evaluation. I have to show what I did. I still need to write 2 articles and 1 book. 2 years would be enough time to do it, but my lifestyle is pretty complicated. I don't have that much time to do it. So it can happen that in 2 years' time, I just lose my job because I didn't do what I needed to do. So if I apply the same, as I said for my mom, I don't need to do anything. Something will happen anyway. If I apply to my job, I don't need to do anything. I'll get fired in 2 years. But I don't find it that funny anymore. I really would need a new job. I would need to do something else. So I will have to be active. And I was active in the last 5 years, and I somehow didn't find anything that I would be happy with. So I don't know. I don't know at the moment. It stresses me out. When I think about it, it stresses me out.
Okay, so the I don't know stresses you.
Yes, and nothing else shows. Whatever I start, whatever I try, I'm not happy with that, and I don't think this should be the way that I need to take.
Hmm.
Or I'm not sure that it will be okay, because if I start my own company, which I would like to do, to consult something, communication, consultation, anything. If I try to start something, I would need time to see if it's working. And in order to start something, I need time. If I try to do everything to keep my present job, I don't have time to start something. So
Hmm.
it's a vicious circle for me.
Hmm.
I cannot I cannot get out. On the other hand, I cannot stay in.
Right. So there's an interesting aspect to this kind of thing, and that is that in order to relax and be curious and allow life to present whatever it might seem to decide to present, there seems to be required a level of trust, right? Which if we look at a little bit closer, really means the absence of mistrust or the absence of stories about how it won't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if we have that kind of focus, then we're much more ready to recognize those stories of mistrust when they turn up.
Exactly.
The absence of them is simply that what we call trust. And one would hope, one would expect that there would be a relaxation, a lighter feeling in the body of, uh, let's say, openness to possibilities that turn up. Yeah.
Mm,
So one of the things that occurred to me was that let's say you do get those papers and that book written, and the consequence would be that they would say, okay, you can keep your job, but you don't want to keep your job.
I don't.
No. So
I
then you
don't. I don't.
then you're faced with making a decision to say, oh well, I'm going to leave anyway.
On the other hand, it's a matter of pride for me to say I'm leaving, rather than for them to say we are firing you. It would be nicer to
Yeah,
happen that way.
yeah. And of course, as soon as you say it's a matter of pride, your focus goes to what that means. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A ridiculous story about reputation or something. Yes. Mm,
Oh yes, and I do have it. I do have it.
mm.
And one more little thing that happened today. I just wanted to say I do recognize many of the traps, but I didn't recognize these negative stories about what will happen if I try. I didn't recognize this trap,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I did recognize one today. Uh, well, we were discussing the family situation, and I say to my husband, uh, somehow we come to conclusion that my mom is always retelling her little stories. She only has two now, but she's always repeating things in her head, repeating and repeating the same thoughts, the same stories. Okay. And my husband says at one point, but you're doing the same. And it was such a sting for me,
Beautiful,
And
absolutely
I
beautiful. Yeah.
and I recognized it and I said, "You hurt me now so bad, but what is it? What's the this is the trigger. This is the trigger. What is the trigger about?" At the first moment, I was just so excited. Ah, I saw the trigger. I saw the trigger. Great, great, amazing. And he's just sitting beside me, and she thinks, "Oh, I hurt you. Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
want to." But okay, I said, it's okay. And then um, at first I didn't know what to do. I was so happy to have found the trigger, but I didn't know what to do. But then I asked myself, okay, what was triggering me? And the first thought I had was, you don't give me recognition that I'm working really hard to get rid of the stories in my head. So this is what I thought, you don't give me recognition for this. And this is something I need recognition for anything I do.
Mm, mm.
So this I know, and
Yeah. And this is very likely to be a much more fundamental base
yes,
for lots of
yeah.
other things, actually. Yes. Yeah.
And he added, and this might be also the second layer to it all, you don't want to be like your mom. And I
Yes.
said, yes, this is true. This is really true. But the first thing, I need recognition. You need to recognize that I'm working hard against the stories in my head. This was more important for me. So it was twice a trigger, a stronger one and a weaker one,
Yes.
and I found them.
Yeah. And there will be others as well. There certainly will be others. So that you want your husband to recognize that you're working hard. Really, you want recognition that you're working hard. That
Yeah,
and and of course there's an irony there, and that is that I hope you're not working hard
yeah.
in a literal
I'm not.
sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I learned that.
Um,
I learned that.
yeah. And of course there will be that will be if it's more fundamental, that need for recognition, then we can play with variations of that story. So need for recognition might simply be need for acknowledgement. And if we go back to being young, which is where these things would have started,
Mm,
then of course a child doesn't even recognize the word recognition or
mm,
acknowledgement, right? They just want approval.
yeah, it can be. Yeah, it applies. It applies, I would say. It applies. Approval, yes.
So another thing occurred to me that you could use artificial intelligence to help you write those articles and that book, and that would reduce the amount of work required very quickly. But that you would also feel, I imagine, you would also feel a bit like you're cheating.
Like cheating, yes.
Yeah.
It will be like cheating. The worst thing, I do have one of these articles and the whole research for another. I have finished this years ago. It's just lying around and I'm not touching it because I have no motivation anymore.
Mm. So interesting to consider what motivation is as well. And so motivation is another it's another, how can I put it? As a concept, it's something fake that society teaches us that
Mm,
we need a reason to achieve an end result.
mm,
That's motivation, and it's fake, 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 fake all the way. It's the reason is fake, the end result is fake. The whole thing is just a concept that society not only approves of but considers very important but in actual fact doesn't touch us in our daily life. Uh,
But
So, yes,
yeah,
go.
when I started working there, and I've been starting there for 25 years now. When I first started, had I always had the feeling that I was paid to play. And this was so amazing for years. And
Mm,
I thought this is really crazy. I'm playing all time. I used to work 7 days a week. I don't know how many hours. And I didn't notice it because it was fun. It was play.
yeah, yeah,
It
exactly.
wasn't work. But then at some point it became work. Somehow, I don't know how.
Well,
And
let's change it. Let's put that around the other way. Somehow it's stopped being play.
yeah.
Yeah. So what is play? When we're playing, right? If you imagine kids playing, there's no thought of the future. It's always what's exactly happening now. And when we work, it's always to achieve something in the future. So
Mm.
we switch out of now into ideas about whatever might come along. But when we play with, there's enthusiasm and there's joy. And when we work, there's drudgery or whatever work appears to you
There
as.
was lots of joy. There was lots of joy, lots of joy. There was only joy, only play, only.
Yes, I
And
get that.
I
I
was
get that.
good then. I was very good then. After that, the problem is this hierarchy, academic hierarchy. You start as an assistant teacher, assistant researcher, anything, and you only have. I was research assistant. I only had to do research, and I had all the time in the world just to do research, and this was really good. Then I got some teaching. This was also okay. But then when you go up on the ladder, then you get a lot more administration to do. And this was the end of it.
Right. So it was that administration that took the joy out of it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Bureaucracy of any kind always promotes people to their level of incompetence, and that's where they stay.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
And this is where the things happened that I told to Marius. I was a head of department and I wasn't able to touch my email since May 1 year, and I omitted to do some things that we were sued for after that because I wasn't able to open my email anymore. This was such a nasty burnout then.
mm, mm. Yes.
I just couldn't deal with it. And I did a lot of it, because I helped everyone. Somehow I understood all the workings, all beside my research, I also understood the workings of this administration because it's also a logic in itself. So everyone turned to me for help, for explanations, for everything. So I was there for everything at one point.
Mm. None
And
of
then
it was joyful. It was all work.
no, no. And then there were also people, we are department, and above us it's the faculty. Many departments together make a faculty. So the people from faculty used to call me sometimes because someone in my department, I wasn't even responsible for it. Someone in my department didn't do something properly, and they called me to correct it, to repair it somehow. So I did everybody's work there, and this was too much
Mm.
because somehow the others were smart enough to play dumb and not
Yes.
be able to do this administration, so they got less load of it
Yeah. Yeah.
in the end effect.
Yes. Yeah. We didn't. We use up people's willingness in that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And now I don't even find joy in the research anymore because, and the teaching is also problematic, as Leonard said, for his students. Mine are similar. On Thursday, I had a group. They're not bad. They're fine kids. I said to them, you have three short sentences. Short sentences. If you want to find verbs in present tense, they're linguists. If you want to find verbs in present tense in those sentences, what do you need to know? And they were just sitting there looking at me for 5 minutes, looking at me, and then their looks on the tables and heads down. No response for anything. Simple questions. Really nothing. I'm asking nothing, and I get nothing. I cannot teach. I already think that I have a kind of disconnection to this younger generation. I'm old now. I don't understand them, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm really too old to teach. Maybe younger people should teach. I was maybe a better teacher when I was younger. I don't know.
Mm. So did that take you to a place of feeling inadequate or
Yes, yes,
something
yes,
along
yes,
those lines? Yes.
yes. Now, before I told you, I feel anxious when I go into the classroom. And then somehow this dissolved. This went very quickly. I don't have problems now going into the classroom, but getting out when I'm done and I I was prepared. I tried to do my best as I have been doing for 25 years. I remember things being better before, but now when I come out of the classroom, I feel so heavy, and that that I'm very unsuccessful. I don't have I don't feel any connection to them. I don't know.
Mm. Do you recognize that this too is a trigger, although it's not a sharp stab kind of trigger. It's a low level.
Dull one.
Mm,
Yes, it can be. Yeah. No approval, and then I don't feel well anymore.
yep.
But on
So
the
it's
other
not.
hand,
It's
it's
also
really
they're going.
it's really also, does it have any point to do it?
Yes. So then you suffer with the illusion that there needs to be a point. There needs to be a reason, a purpose.
Yes, I am very convinced that there have to be a purpose of what I'm teaching them.
Mm,
And what I was doing with them is something that it's not in the plan. It's how to make good prompts for the language models. So it's something that it's nobody planned to do it because the models are very new, and I think they will need it when
mm.
they start working one day in a
So
year or two.
there's your purpose, but it's difficult to achieve.
I don't think it's difficult to achieve. I achieved nothing. I didn't see that this interests them at all.
Mm,
Maybe some of them, I have to say some of them, not, it's not that 20 of them are sitting like logs there,
mm.
but two or three are interested and all the others are sitting like logs.
Right. So do you see that your focus is outward rather than inward here?
Yes. Yeah.
So we can imagine, we can have another story that says if something were different, then there would be a different result, right? It's a story. That
Yeah.
if you were younger and more in tune with the way they think, then you would get more of a response that you want from them.
This is my story. Yes, this is my
Yes,
story.
yes, yes.
One of
So
them.
so what is a potential alternative story that isn't focused on the future and on a purpose and on a result, that is focused on what actually is happening in you? What would be an alternative story?
What is happening in me?
Hmm.
An alternative story that I have or that I might have.
Well, you can find one now. So might have, yes, okay. Obviously, you don't already have one that has any energy in it. It needs to displace the other one, so it needs to have more energy than the other one has.
Yeah.
You know, no, I'm not asking for an answer right now, but it's something to consider.
Yeah.
The idea that they're the younger generation and they think differently may be accurate or not, but it is just a story.
I know it's a story and it might not even be true because on the other hand, when they look for supervision for their how do you call it? Mm, we call it diploma. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that'll do. Yeah.
yeah, when they look for supervision, many of them turn to me. I have most students more than any of my colleagues.
And is
So
that
I'm the
because they like you, or for what do you imagine the reason is for?
They know I'm approachable as a person because many of my colleagues have a problem that they are too something that in other countries wouldn't be allowed. They are too rude to them.
Okay. Yeah. Which of course is an maybe almost an intentional barrier that they put up. Yeah.
Yes, they do it in the classes and afterwards.
So they
And
suffer from the illusion of superiority.
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. But they're really harsh to those kids. I
Mm,
mean, I'm complaining now how the students are, but no one deserves this kind of this kind of treatment. Really, no one,
mm.
never.
That's another good reason to get out, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm respectful to them. There
Mm.
are children, 20 years old, 21, 22,
Yep.
but they deserve respect. And this is how I communicate with them always.
Yep.
And on the other hand, what I teach are so interesting subjects. It's psycholinguistics, it's cognitive linguistics. As linguists, they're interested. They are they at the end they seem to be interested in it and the things I do. So I don't really know. It's a conflicting story in my head.
Mm. And
In
if
the
you,
classroom, nothing. Outside,
yeah,
and on one-on-one, I do function. I feel that I function very good on one-on-one, one-on-one. Maybe not for the group. Maybe this is the problem. Another story.
yes, of course, yeah. So can you see that one of the things that we're talking about is the ability for you to be aware in the present to the stories that you tell yourself that make life less pleasant.
Yes, yes. And I'm especially not aware of the stories around my job,
Yeah,
concerning my job.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of our stories are almost hidden. They're hidden in plain sight, but when they're not recognized as stories, because we tend to um, how can I put it? I want to say we tend to blame them. We blame the external
Mm.
circumstances for what's going on and don't recognize that what we're really reacting to are stories in the present that are going on. You know, we say, oh, that's a legitimate story. It might be another way of escaping the consequences of recognizing it as a story. We say
Sorry.
it's
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So from the wrong direction, we could say something like a story like, is it possible for you to trust that whatever turns up, whatever happens, whether you keep your job or not keep your job, whether you start your own company or not, whether you whatever happens, it'll be okay. Right? Now that's a wrong story. That's from the wrong direction, but it kind of takes us to the same place. Right? So what we really want to do is the opposite, not the opposite, but the inverse of that, is we want to recognize the things that separate us from that attitude. So all of the things of mistrust, all of the stories about how things might not work out, um, how the future-oriented stories, always future-oriented. That's a huge thing. So
Yes.
recognizing all the existence of those and the simple recognition of them can be enough to dissolve a lot of them. And if they're not fundamental, they will simply dissolve when we see them. And usually they'll dissolve in a way that will reveal something more fundamental. And then we're left with that feeling of whatever happens is fine. It's also part of that story that whatever happens is inevitable. So why fight it? That's
Yeah.
crazy. That just corrupts the future experience. And then we
Yeah.
then we tend to relax into the present, and it changes everything without those stories. Every moment in any situation is just loaded with energy and excitement and curiosity. Uh, so it's those stories that kill that stuff.
But it's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith. Was
Well, I
it
don't,
really?
I don't, I don't want you to adopt a belief, you see. What I want you to do is discover the reality of that.
Yeah, I know, I know. Is it really so that everything will be okay? Is it really, really so? Because the first story, the first situation I draw all the conclusions from is the situation with my mom, which will end this or that way, but it won't be pleasant. However it ends, it won't be pleasant. We know that.
Okay, won't that be good?
Yeah.
The unpleasantness that may turn up can can be a variation of discomfort or pain or suffering. It can be a variation that in spite of the lack of pleasantness can be productive, can be
Mm,
useful. And when that happens, because of our old conditioning, so in this way, this is an interesting one. Now, that old conditioning that says purpose is good, that outcome is good, that we know is not a primary of primary value, in this case can be of value. That the unpleasantness is a potential productivity that can have very useful outcomes, right? So we must be we it's appropriate to be careful to not start imagining that life will always be pleasant. But it all is also appropriate to recognize that unpleasantness can be very useful.
Well, how I am now, how I work now, is that I really do know that because I see opportunity in
Yes,
every
yes,
ugly thing. I'm looking at ugly things very on purpose now, and I'm almost happy to
yes,
see the ugly things and to
yes,
look at
yes.
them.
You get that
Okay, I
almost
know
happy.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But somehow the circumstances of life, I mean, it's a really leap of faith to think that everything will be okay if I just let my
Well,
job go and
yes, okay. Well, change that from okay, right? But you'll come back to okay in future. My experience is that you'll come back to okay, but change okay now for the moment to inevitable.
okay, inevitable. Because okay,
Whatever's, yeah.
yes, I'm learning. Yes, I'm looking at ugly things. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I don't avoid it anymore. Okay. But I wouldn't want to look at the ugly things from the perspective of someone who is homeless and without health insurance or something. I mean, it's not the situation I need for my development. Anyone, it's not the situation that anyone would need, you
Ah,
know.
well, we cannot know, but presumably a logic extension here is that those people who are homeless and have no insurance and have no security, who every single day look for um, elements of survival like food and whatever money they need, can also be very happy in that situation. We imagine that they're suffering the whole time, but that's only our imagination. So here's a little story about, oh no, must be going back more than 5 years. Somebody, I don't even remember who it was, did a study, a worldwide study of happiness in the world, and the results that blew my mind were that the the happiest person in the world was a German Buddhist monk, right? And and it's fairly obvious why he was happy. He just had accepted whatever turned up with great humor and joy, right? But the second happiest people in the world, get this one, this is the really important one. The second happiest people in the world was a family in India who shared a small room with something like 12 other families. And when they slept of a night, there was absolutely zero room on the floor to walk because there were just bodies everywhere. Right? And they were the second happiest in the world. And when asked why they were happy, they simply compared themselves to the people out on the street who had no roof to sleep under. Right? Right? So if you think about the kids playing in the mud in Africa who are really happy with nothing. Uh, and in fact, you'll find a lot more happiness. You'll also find a lot more pain, but you'll find a lot more happiness amongst people who have nothing than you have if you go to the rich part of the world and all of those people are suffering like crazy. Not very many super rich people are extremely happy. So it's not contingent on the stuff that we're conditioned to believe makes up for happiness. It's an internal thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Vince, can I interrupt you?
Yes, of course.
your story contradicts what you're saying, because this family was happy because they had more than someone else.
I don't say that's why they were happy. I say that's what they said made them happy, which I would
Yes, that's
imagine
what
would be a
we said.
superficial thing. Yeah. Go.
I repeat myself, it will be a leap of faith, and I will sit here many a session to get there, I think.
Yes. So is there an alternative to a leap of faith, or is let's talk about that as a concept, right? That we go from this to that when we leap into faith, and when we have faith, it's a belief. So we don't want a leap of faith. What we
Yeah,
want is a discovery about what is actual.
yes. So, well, how I function now is to go step by step. My next step is to look at the stories I have around my job, to see that they are stories. Not to
Yeah.
look at the stories because I'm not interested in stories. I'm just interested in the fact that they are stories.
Yes, yes, yeah. And not just around your job, but in your job.
And in my job, yeah.
Yes. So
I
the
mean, concerning my job.
stories that come up when you're standing in the front of the class is an important one because it's very much now, here, now.
Yeah, yes. And a big thing from today, what you said to me, that because I was really not, yeah, I'm seeing that, I'm seeing this now, but I really didn't think about all of this as something consisting of stories. And I was complaining in my head, I cannot do it anymore. I don't want to fly. I don't want to, I have to fly for a job that I don't like. It's really a lose-lose situation,
Mm,
but it's also a story. It's also a story. Everything is a
mm.
story.
And another kind of way to look at this, another perspective is this is really potentially incredibly valuable. So we don't want to lose it until we
Yeah,
discover what's underneath it.
yeah, yeah.
So if you suddenly won the lottery and you didn't need to do it anymore, that would deprive you of the opportunity to find out about yourself.
Yes, yes. Good that I'm so lazy at playing the lottery.
Yeah, yeah. Just coming back, Bianca, to the happiness story. I mean, that the story, the reason that I tell that story is simply to break the bond between uh, our external conditions and our internal response to them. That's all. Right. So of course, I question. I mean, the whole idea of a research on happiness to start with is how do we define happiness? And happiness does not deserve what we give it in the West, the credibility we give it in the West. Contentment is much more valuable than happiness. Happiness is transitory always. We can't always be happy. Um, but if we have a fundamental basis of contentment, then happiness is more likely to emerge. But also the other stuff, which is also important. So yeah, I would question that whole research in a way, but I just wanted to say it's not about our external conditions that create happiness. It's about our internal attitude to those conditions. That's all.
I guess there was also researchers uh, with, well, yeah, it was about comparing myself with my neighbors
Mm,
mostly.
mm, mm. And of course, when asked why
Just
people are happy, happy people have got no idea why they're happy. Right? They have to come up with something. They have to make up something quickly, and they have to make a socially acceptable story about why they're happy. The reality would be, why are you happy? I have no idea. I don't know why I'm happy, because people don't know why they're happy, because it's intrinsic. It's not. It's not something that can be measured.
Was it a book about happiness?
No, it was some kind of research. I'll have to try and look it up again. I'll have to. I'll ask Gemini or one of those to go search for it and see if we can find that research paper again. I don't even remember who ran the study. I think
Because
they. Yeah, go.
there was a book based on some research. The author was Gretchen Rubin. That was the name. So I
That
just
name
wanted
does ring a bell, so it may have come out of that particular
to.
thing. I've got a vague memory that they gave all these people a an electronic device. I don't think it was a smartphone. I think it was probably prior to smartphones, but they gave them something, and then every couple of hours during the day they had to answer a prompt about how they felt. I think that was what it was involved in it too. I'll go look it up. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, because Bianca's question opens up much more curiosity about it for me now. Mm. How have you been, Dennis?
Hi everyone. Um, okay, Vince. Yeah, just busy lately
So when you're
with
busy,
work.
does this stuff get pushed into the background, or is it does it coexist with busyness?
It's here all the time. I mean, I suppose the main thing at the minute, or and it has been for quite some time, is that sense of frustration still here. And not just this frustration here; it's the unwillingness to maybe sit with it or feel it as a practice or as a way of trying to resolve it. So
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
frustration
Yeah.
and the unwillingness to sit with it. Yeah.
So what's the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you the question, what is the advantage of having that frustration in your life? Don't think too much about it. What came to mind?
Well, what came to mind quickly was it keeps me going.
Okay, so there you go. That's where you need to look. Yeah. So in other words, it's a survival tool.
Well, when I say that, Vince, I mean it keeps the sense of me going.
The sense of you, right? It keeps that illusion alive. Yes. Okay,
Like
so
if I'm
then
anything, I'm the frustrated one.
yes, 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 yes. Okay, so then that immediately brings up the next question. What's the advantage of having a self?
Oh, Jesus.
Frustra- Frustration keeps that going. What's the advantage of that?
I I don't know. What's the advantage of having a self?
What's the first thing that comes to mind? It might be a picture rather than words.
Well, no, what came up straight away was who would I be if I wasn't myself?
Exactly. Okay. All right. And so then if we look at who would you be is part of that you would not be, that you would disappear, annihilation.
No, I don't feel that's there. That feels like that would be another story or something you'd resist. That's not in my field of awareness. Let's say
Mm.
that's not something that's come up that I wouldn't be.
So who would you be? What's the first thing that comes up as a question, as an answer? First thoughts about who would you be if you had no self? Trust the first thought as the most likely direction, not answer, but direction to look.
Well, the first thing that just came up was free.
Free. Okay, so that's a bit scary, is it? Why would you
No,
resist being free?
I don't feel like I'm resisting it. It's just what came up with a
Hmm.
little smile. But I don't feel like I'm resisting it. It's the fact that there is frustration here, and maybe it's painful to experience it in the body, be with it, sit with it.
But if you're free, you would be without that frustration, would you not?
Not necessarily. I don't make that conclusion either. I might just be free to be frustrated.
Ah,
Uh,
okay. Yep, yep. Not free from, but free to. Yes. All right. There's a difference, isn't there?
but the reality is, it's just frustration.
But we're going backwards now. We're going back up to the frustration. So without the frustration, you would be free to feel the frustration. That's a bit of a closed circle, isn't it?
Yeah, but that was just the kind of, thinking about it and wondering without what would it be like. So it's imagining. So we're just imagining there for a few minutes, but the reality is there's frustration, and it comes and goes. Like when you were having the conversation there for a while, there was frustration at the start, and then I was frustrated with the conversation I was listening to, and then I forgot about that, and I was just listening to the conversation, and it was perfectly fine and interesting. And then Bianca came on, and then I felt frustrated again for a moment, and then it went away again. So it's just frustration is here; it comes and goes. It uses what's in front of it to be frustrated.
Yep. So on the surface, of course, that frustration would be about what is outside of you, what you're hearing.
Yeah, but it's not that really.
No, no. So if you say that frustration is there, therefore it is useful, what would be the usefulness of it? What is the achievement of having the frustration?
Maybe it's a boundary creator.
Yeah. Okay. And is that so? The purpose of that boundary is that protection?
It's not. It doesn't feel like physical protection. It's more psychological space, maybe.
Hmm. Psychological space. So
Like
that keeps you.
psychological protection.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So metaphorically speaking, the boundary is not a wall or a fence in this case, but an area, right? That keeps you removed from what it's protecting you from is on the outside of that area.
Yeah, like
Keeping
it's funny. Your questions are just creating responses here, and as you're saying that kind of what's it protecting me from or whatever, there is that sort of sense of a space that um yeah, psychological space I want ownership of, as opposed to other people filling up that space. So there's a pushback, establishing boundaries. I'm here.
Yep, yep.
This is my space. You know, you can come close here, but you must respect my space
So if we
psychologically.
play with the fantasy that that space ceases to be protective, would the incursion of other people result in maybe being overwhelmed or being something unpleasant?
No, again, what comes up is it's about being aware of the space. And if someone else tries to encroach into the space, the response would be to grow the space around the person and consume them into the space.
Okay, so what I'm saying is I want you to look at what that is protecting you. What would happen if that protection wasn't there? What would be threatened?
Um, Maybe I feel like my sense of self, um,
Okay.
and to temper that statement, the emotional aspect of my sense of self, my emotional self.
Yes, yeah. And that requires protecting and maybe even nurturing in order to what? First thing that comes up. You don't need to think about it. Do we the
I
first thing that
wasn't,
arrives. Yeah.
I wasn't, your word nurturing just kind of hit me like a steamroller. So I was trying to peel myself off the ground again after you said it. Um, uh, Love, I suppose.
Love. Okay. Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Isn't it?
But somehow your nurturing statement triggered it. And I don't know why you said nurturing.
I don't either, but those things
I was
just
just going to
appear.
say that too.
Yeah. Yeah, the technique of getting that first thought that turns up, and that's probably a little bit misleading to say because the thoughts don't have to be verbal or textural. They can be an image, and and that image can be a movie, not a still image either. You know, that can be just an impression is a better way to put it of what comes up. And the technique of grabbing that first thing is really, really valuable simply because the moment we start thinking about it, we're off in the wrong direction. And so trusting that that first thing has some credibility, it's worth looking at in that direction is a really, really useful technique when we're looking at investigating what's going on inside us. You trust it, you can trust easily that the moment you start thinking about it, you're heading away from what's going on.
Yeah, and what comes up now is that love is painful.
Okay. Is it inherent in love, that pain, or is it the response of the love that is painful?
It feels like it's the emergence of love is painful.
So play that fantasy out about the emergence of love. So when it reveals itself, is that a good way to say emergence?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the painfulness about that is what?
it's an admittance of brokenness.
Right. Oh, how can love be broken? Or what is the brokenness? What's the image of brokenness?
Yeah, shame is is in the vicinity of it.
Hmm. So down here with the emergence of love and shame, incredible vulnerability, incredible openness.
Yeah, it's like the shame protects.
Yeah. I do see shame as a protection. What do you think it might be protecting?
What keeps coming up, and because I don't really have a clear answer, but what comes up is the mistake of being.
Hmm. I'm getting a feeling that this is much more fundamental. I mean, this is something that Bianca and Rames have mentioned in the past. This mistake of being is, ooh,
Or to say it another way, the mistake of becoming a person, a
so
separate person.
a separate person. Okay, the mistake of losing something.
Yeah, the loss of innocence. It's like the initial sin, the self consciousness, when you become uh,
Right.
when not self aware, self conscious. Yeah, people are very self conscious.
When you said the loss of innocence, I immediately thought, you got brought up in a Catholic atmosphere, didn't you? Was it got to do something with original sin, maybe? It could be a
I don't.
diversion. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I know that story, but this is younger than even knowing those stories.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So the loss of innocence, and that innocence is just that is openness, isn't it? That is totally unprotected, trusting. So, so if you're protecting from that, then logically speaking, that still exists in you, but deep, deep, buried deep down and protected by many layers of other things. Would that be the case? Does that feel right?
Yeah, I'm kind of not sure right now what we're talking about, other than when you said the layer thing. It's definitely the sense of a person and a persona has been built up on top of an initial shame, and trying to deconstruct yourself is.
Yep, yep, yep. So, but go on further. It's built on top of that shame, but that shame is also built on top of that innocence you mentioned, because that innocence is very vulnerable to something, is it? It needs protecting. How does that feel?
I don't know. It feels like I've made a mistake and I can't unmake the mistake.
Okay, so there, that immediately says to me that that shame sits on top of the guilt of making the mistake. I'm pushing my stories a bit here because I see shame as covering up guilt. And so, but it's the way you spoke was like it was something you did. You made the mistake.
Or maybe I am the mistake.
Well, that's the same thing, I guess, isn't it? Yeah. Because the evolution of the mistake is what we now call Dennis, I guess.
Yeah, and I have a desire just to go back and talk about frustration again, because that's where we were kind of talking about frustration and how to deal with it.
Well, that's the outermost protective layer, isn't it?
Yes, the expression of it.
Can you appreciate that the the looking that you're doing now changes things? What you've just seen already is potential for change. By potential, I mean potential energy. It has movement in it.
I think in the way we've done it now, it has a bit of potency because there's guidance down and in to look, which is not as easy on your own. Um, the teacher on your own is the body and the sensations and the feelings.
And the willingness to look, of course, is a big part of that. It's something that Maja embodies, that willingness to look, that almost excitement about what could be discovered. Yeah.
It kind of feels like it's not that I'm ashamed, it's that I am shamed.
Yes, yeah. And that's really accurate, I think. That's really true that when we experience these things, we become these things. It's not like we're something that puts on a coat. It's through and through. It's fundamental to us when we experience whatever we experience. That verb experiencing is what we become. That's a bit theoretical in a way, but I feel that it's relevant. That we do. It's a
Feels
funda.
like,
Yeah.
no, it's kind of saying what you're saying slightly differently, but it just feels like if you let it overtake you, or we resist it, we stay at a distance from it, which is kind of trying to keep it at bay. But when you let it wash over you, you're fully, or you begin to become more and more it.
Mm. The first question I got asked when I went to LU, like 2 weeks after I woke up, was, is an experiencer required to experience something? And it was obvious to me that only experiencing exists. And since then, guiding, and I use a thing I call the cup exercise to help people discover that the subject and the object are only conceptual, but the actual experiencing is all that exists. And it extrapolates out to the fact that that we are a verb. We are the act of experiencing. It's always changing. It's never still. It's never in the past. It's never in the future. It's out of time, but it's a verb. And so it's movement.
Yeah, that feels like, if that feels nice. Like what you're saying feels like that's the desired state, but the actual state is experiencing and the object experience.
Both the object and the subject then are protection from.
Experiencing.
Mm.
Like in every interaction, in every moment of frustration, or every little kind of picture of yesterday or the day before, or times I can remember, I'm the problem in that moment.
Mm. And is I'm the object?
No, I don't know what I am.
The language
Well,
falls up here. So when we say I'm, we go I apostrophe M. Then there's I am, but there's also ownership in all of that, isn't there?
yeah, it feels like an emotion with a story wrapped around
Mm.
it, or a
So
thought,
really,
or
we want language to say "I'm"ing. We want to add ing to I'm. I apostrophe M-I-N-G becomes much more the way things really are. I aming might be a better way, or being. Being also has a bit of an objective sense to it, which is a misleading thing, I think. But yeah, amming feels righter. We're going to make up a whole new language here. So, so don't do anything now. Just allow what you've seen to wash around, to wash through you, not over you, but through you. Allow that to settle and see what happens. Keep thinking of the word discovery. Good morning, bamboozled. What are you bamboozled about? Are you bamboozled about, or are you bamboozled?
I am Good morning. Yes, which is not, it's not a morning here, but for the sake of, because I'm lazy. Good morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I am bamboozled because when I was thinking about how I should name myself for this session, um, it also occurred to me that I was like before I agreed for this game or I signed up for this, I was I didn't probably read the small print, the fine print. I didn't read the whole terms of what's it called? I don't know. Not. I didn't
Yeah,
fully acquaint myself with the contract or the agreement, I guess.
yeah. The
And
32-page T and C.
yeah, TNC, and that's something that Dennis mentioned, and I was like, oh yeah, that was probably my kind of uh, idea behind bamboozled. I actually didn't know the meaning of the word. It just came up, and I had to look it up, and then oh, okay, I like this. I just like the sound of it. Um, and And I was just listening to Dennis's voice, and I was just enjoying his voice. Dennis, I was enjoying your voice. I didn't care so much about um, well, I don't mean to be rude, but the content was not so much of a focus for me as the melody. And the melody was important, but the actual movements of your dance were not so important. Um, which is by no mean to say that they're not um, important. But something you said about being a mistake, and I immediately thought about, oh, I really like that mistake. I really like that. I love that mistake. And then I thought, oh, it's such a fucking esoteric thought, to be to love, love everything. Like, oh, love your anger, love you this, love you that, da ta ta. But that's what I actually felt. I just felt that the mistake entitled to Denis is a great mistake. I love it. I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I mean, the mistake that he is has become a lovely person. I feel pleasure in knowing him. Yeah, well, knowing him and in meeting him. Yeah, and what you said about his voice too. Your voice does that for me, but it's not the melody of your voice. Maybe it is, but it's the word comes to mind is timbre, Timbre. The timbre
Mhm.
of your voice uh, has creates good feelings here. Yeah.
Yeah, as usual, when you say this, I'm confused because I don't know what to do, where to put myself.
It will just be the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, just be the voice. Um, yeah, I think I'm feeling, what's the word? What's the word? Because I feel there's, stuff like it's almost like this red sort of hot soup is filling up, and it feels like a little bit of embarrassment, I guess. But it doesn't feel bad. It's just like, like it's more like I don't think I know how to process it. Maybe it's if I knew, probably I would just process it, right? I would just like, oh, okay. But maybe this is the part of my interaction with people that I'm like, like, what do you do in this context? Like, how do you um, how do you respond to people when they say something like this? How do you say this yourself? I actually noticed this yesterday, and I grew this guy. What's his name? He's an actor, something Senna. I think Senna. He's just a big bodybuilder, big guy. Anyway, I was watching his video, and there's a uh, he came up. Well, maybe he wasn't the one, but I saw it first time with him. It's called the reverse trash talking or reverse trash talking, where it sounds like he's trash talking you. He's saying, mean stuff to you, but he's actually saying something really nice about you. He's like, Vince, you know what? These, I mean, your intelligent looks is so, I don't know, it just makes me so happy to see you. But and then when of course he was sort of making fun, but I realized that I wasn't bored. I wasn't brought up in a society or in community where saying nice things to people is like is a habit. Like you don't say the the best. Well, there's actually instead of saying something nice, you don't say anything at all, and that's probably like the closest you can get to saying something nice. And which is like better than saying something bad because we're just, sometimes a bitter and full of sarcasm and cynicism. And then there's no place for that uh, complimenting side to emerge in that, of course. And for me, it feels very, sometimes it feels very mm, rewarding to express this when, like with Dennis, when I want to. It kind of sounds cheesy, but I don't want to compliment. It's not like I want to compliment. I just want to share what's emerging in me when I am with Dennis or with his voice. And this is something. And by holding it back, it would be like stealing from the world or from life. So I want to. When I share this, um, I feel uh, like I am sort of doing something which is like nourishing me at the same time. But um, I don't know, the language is failing me. Um, yeah. So, and I'm not really used to saying nice things about people. Um, uh, but sometimes one thing I'm really happy with is that I don't have to. It just happens sometimes, and I don't have to either resist it or get ready for it, or sometimes I don't have it, sometimes I have it. When I have it, I just have to get out of the way and let it happen. And then, but it still feels weird because it's just not a habit. Like I've never, it's like, if you've never seen snow and then you see snow for the first time, like, oh, that's weird. So saying nice things to people, and then again, nice. Maybe it's like that thing with, I don't know, maybe it's like the thing with trust and mistrust. Maybe there's no bad things. Maybe nah, that's too much talking. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of running away from it in a way. But I think I love to be that. Um, and then there's no agenda, which is like, because sometimes you would say nice things to people in order to get something in return, right? Um, But now that I said it, I can actually see there could be an agenda, but there wasn't at the moment. So yeah,
So are you actually saying that your cultural conditioning is the reason why you have difficulty expressing something?
it's like no one showed me the moves. It's like no one in my family um, would sincerely, genuinely say something which they
Yeah,
like
yeah,
about you.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I
Would
like you,
that,
I like your voice, I like you, I like how
yeah,
you look, well, they would, but then these would be like very sort of socially, uh, I don't know, more like they would sort of train you into becoming something, like by saying, "Oh, you got an A, like for math," and they would compliment you on that. It wasn't really a compliment. It was more like how you train the dogs, right? The dog doesn't move.
mm,
You give it a piece of food, and then the dog is like, "Oh, okay, I should be doing more of this." But it wasn't like you like the dog so much you just cannot hold it back. So you just, wow, I love you. You're so, yeah, and then the dog just feels it. And but there's no like, it's just you don't stop whatever is flowing through you, if you could say flow. You just don't stop it. But in my culture, it was like permanently stopped, like a dam was built, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't you don't
So would you
say.
see that was that all over, say, Ukraine slash Russia? That kind of, is it a
Well, like,
cultural thing that you would extend to the whole country or the whole area?
well, my immediate society, of course, but that was like because I was born in Soviet Union, so and then that was slightly different. But it was more like Russian legacy, I believe. Um, but the part where I lived, and still it is pretty much the case. Uh, um, yeah, it's not a habit to admire
Yeah,
other human beings, and it's more of a jealousy, I guess, is more common, but like really admire, like really. But then I think you can admire someone if your own sort of hunger has been quenched somehow. That's at least how what I notice. If my hunger is really urgent, acute, and then I see someone successful, I won't be able to admit that, I won't be able to admire their success because I will be bitter because of my own success. And
mm,
I'll be, but one thing I noticed as when and it's that hunger is really, really basic. I would, I would just sort of turn inward and tell myself, I love you, and sort of let it sink. And then whoever is receiving these words there, once they absorb those words that they're loved and that they're complete and there's nothing they have to do, um, then they turn when they turn outwards, they admire. There's admiration because they're sort of my inner child's, that's the way I see it, need has been addressed and has been quenched. And then it's like a really, really basic stuff. I don't need, it's not about having something material. It's not about having, I don't know, other people command you or praise you. It's just, I mean, yeah, you can probably get it from other people, but I would give it to myself, and that's something I discovered recently. And once I give it to myself, then that part of me that can admire is just naturally there. It's like it's yeah, sure. And like I am ready to not I'm ready to, but I'm not so much focused on my bitterness or my,
mm.
trauma or whatever you call it. And I can uh, enjoy whatever's in front of me.
So would you say, is this a discovery that you're making about yourself, or is this, say, the influence of the culture that you now live in, the Western culture?
I think it's both. I think most of it comes from me looking at my stuff, but um, also there's yeah, this society has way more of this than in Ukraine, and probably I'm not sure, but maybe Ukraine also has more of it now. Uh, Maybe the Ukraine as a system is evolving as well, and maybe people are becoming more open. Maybe it's not a local sort of phenomena that I have. Maybe it's a planetary kind of, thing, and I'm
Yeah, who
just
knows? Yeah, yeah.
and then the brain can explain it the way that it explains. But maybe like everyone is experiencing it now, and I'm just talking about something that people are like naturally becoming more open towards each other and more sincere and willing to spread honey, not shit. But
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with shit.
Um, I I interrupt as a Polish woman, somewhat in this culture. You know, maybe it's just different language. Like we express more in action than words. You know, it's just who do you invite into your house? Who would you help? And I think we are also more free to go to the other side. I mean, it's easier to hear if someone, if my voice is pissing off someone, I may hear. I mean, about this action, I think about my husband, who is, he's not about, I don't know if he ever told me I'm beautiful, but I know he loves me to pieces. He just speaks in action.
Yeah, I think there's a book that's called Five Languages of Love or something like that. And it's for different people. Some people prefer verbal, some people prefer action, some people prefer physical contact, some people prefer gifts, I guess. Like some people prefer like services, like I'll do something for you because I love you. But um, for me, I was talking more about maybe that's the form that's my way of because also I think it's important for me because I think um, that's how I want to express it. I want to express it with words and like that's my kind of maybe I'm cheap, but it's just my way of letting it flow. Like I would oh wow and I just say it. And I think it's also um, it just occurred to me that it could be a more vulnerable way to express admiration, love, or whatever that is, because you're when you say it, it's um, there's a there could be like a fear of rejection, right? It's like when you're a boy and you come to a girl and you say I like you, and then I'm not a boy, but I'm just saying that there, but also what's is like what there's no fear. It's just it happens. It just if you let it, God, um, if you don't well, I don't. Yeah, if you don't resist it, it just happens. You just go around people and enjoy them, but it doesn't happen all the time. Hmm. I'm not sure I got the part about your voice, what you meant.
Uh, okay, coming back to my husband. When I had my teeth done, my front teeth, and in the beginning they did one tooth in the front too long.
A bit like a rabbit.
Just one tooth was longer than the twin one. And I came home and my husband asked, did they give you a can opener? You know, I came back to my dentist. I said, what is it? and and he was, oh my God, how can he said this to you? It's so rude. But yeah, it's just how we are. If he doesn't like something, he will tell me straight to my face.
Brutal honesty. Brutal honesty, yeah.
Well, my wife says to me, I've probably started having some kind of stomach issues recently for a couple of days, and it causes bad breath. And my wife says to me, "You your breath stinks." And well, it's not always a fun thing to hear, even though I mean it is. She doesn't like it, and it's okay. But it does feel like rejection sometimes. Um, fuck. Like, oh, you're so. Yeah. You're probably guessing now if it's stinking now, but yeah, it is maybe. I don't know. That part, I haven't really come to terms with it because I always thought like, there's always this illusion that out there somewhere there's a person that loves you just the way you are, with all your, breaths and can openers and, everything. And when you shit yourself, when you vomit all over yourself, they love you. They love you. They love you. They love you. But then I don't think that's the case anymore, unless you are that person. There's like no one in the world is probably going to give you that sort of well, at least that's how I see it now. There will always be some kind of personal um, preferences. Um, and for me, saying things like, because before I don't think I was sensitive to other people responding to my sarcasm. So when you said that your husband made a comment about your tooth, and uh, I my interest was like, well, did it hurt you or not? Like the comment itself, or were you? Then if it doesn't hurt, then there's probably no malice. It's just fun. But sometimes, that can hurt, I guess.
Well, oh, in this case, it could be fixed quite easily. I just went back and they corrected the tooth. Um, but it's like if it couldn't be corrected, there are things that can't. I'd rather not mention. But he would still love me with this can opener.
I don't know. Maybe I think it's probably my personal story. I don't see it that way. I see that there's some kind of mm, I don't know. There's some kind of hurt, I guess, in that. Which I mean, I totally understand it can be fixed and stuff like that. But then sometimes you could be vulnerable, not prepared for that kind of humor. And especially if you spend like I don't know how you are with the dentists, and dentists could be, quite stressful to you. And then you come home after the stressful encounter with a dentist, and I don't know. and then someone who's close to you and someone your next of kin or your family tells you makes a comment, then this could hurt, or maybe not. I don't know. If you're like, oh, whatever, I don't care. It's a theory, but that's my sort of personal response, depending where I'm coming
Uh-huh.
from.
No, I understand, and I can say there is absolutely no hurt at all.
Okay.
And uh, it's I like when I know there are things about me that make him uncomfortable, like this stinky breath because I smoke. Yeah, it's that's uh, that is not a secret. Yeah, there is shame about these things.
I'm stuck. I don't know where we're going with this. Not that it's just like I realized that I was listening to you and I was curious, and now I'm like, where am I? So yeah, I just wanted to say it. It's not like
So
I have a yeah, sorry.
I was thinking too, how do we relate this to discovery about ourselves? And of course, I recognize immediately that that was based on a story that that's what we're here for, to discover
I
something
just want
about it.
Yeah, well, one thing when Bianchi, what you were saying this, and I had a friend, and with that friend, I was able to explore feelings and what I say to people and how I say to people, how they respond to that. And there were a few occasions where I would make jokes the way I normally do, and he would say, "Well, that was like I felt hurt there, or I felt pain there when you said that." And because of that, I started to be more. I don't know. I think I am I can actually see when I hurt people now by making jokes about them and I just yeah, I just want to pay attention that I just want to be careful. Well, not careful, but I just want to be aware that what I'm saying um is not gonna hurt the other person. Um unless I want to hurt them on purpose, of course, that's a different story. So it's just about that kind of sensitivity on both sides, on whoever is making a joke and whoever is accepting or receiving a joke. That I don't know. I was actually at some point I was worried that because of that my sense of humor is going to disappear because it was based heavily on sarcasm and just making fun of the flaws that people have. But I don't see it that way. It's changing, and it's just like I just become more aware of other people when they make comments about them, and I can sort of feel that they're not comfortable with some things that I say, or they're feeling some kind of pain, even small pain. Yeah, that was my discovery, Vince, about myself.
Yeah, good one. Okay, so let's go that a little bit further with that. Do you see? I have a story here that says people are going to hear what they want to hear. That's a very gross kind of statement, but essentially, people people don't hear any. I want to say me, but I think they don't hear anybody in a literal sense. They always interpret it according to their own uh, whatever values, interpretation, their perspective on life is a filter that they apply to everything that everybody else says. So no matter what you say, somebody's going to take it somewhat differently to the way you mean it. And so what that says to me is that, of course, I still have uh, not concern, but I still have an appreciation that how I present things is somewhat important. Uh, if I want to get a certain meaning over how I present it is either skillful or less skillful. You can put it that way to say. But regardless of that, people are always going to interpret it. So ultimately, there is no control over how somebody else takes what I say. And so yet what you're expressing seems to indicate that you feel like you have ultimate control over how they perceive you. Would that be accurate?
I think there's an idea that I might be able to talk to everyone in a not non-violent way, but in a friendly manner. So that whatever I say, it always there's no malice in it. There's no tar in it. It's just I'm being honest the way that's I'm saying this, and if there's an
Yeah,
intent to hurt you, then I am frank about it, and if there's no intent to hurt you, then it's
yeah,
also so I think there's an idea that I might at some point be able to talk to everyone without hurting them, I guess,
yeah, yeah,
maybe, I
yeah.
don't know.
So play this fantasy out. What if you say something to somebody with the intention of one thing, but they read malice into it and get offended and then respond to that? How would you feel in this fantasy?
I mean, I had a few, like, surprised and perplexed, I guess, confused and surprised. I'll be like, oof, I'll be like, how did that happen?
Mhm.
I didn't see that one coming. That would be me. Maybe a little scared because I'm not as kind, maybe, as
Mm.
because then I would probably not, yeah, look at myself as being a kind, well, kind as in friendly.
So would
Uh,
you would you would you react with um, uh, a lot of energy to correct their misperception, or would you just walk away accepting what's happened?
well, it's a theoretical case, but I think depends on how depends on my kind of mood, energy, and all that. And if I have enough energy, enough time, then I'll try to explain it. If I fail, maybe one or two times, and if I fail, I'll just leave it, just walk away. Or if it's uh if it's a just a brief social interaction, I'll just like, okay, I'll just shrug the shoulders and so well, that's kind of sad, but that's the way
Mm. Mm.
he saw
Okay.
me, or they saw me.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't run after them and try to convince them. Oh, no, 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 that wasn't the intent. I didn't mean to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
probably not. I was like I was in a cafe the other day, and this guy. he comes with a stroller and like a baby stroller, and there's a baby in the stroller. And he pushed the door with his back. The door is open, and then he's dragging the stroller inside in, and I'm standing there watching him, in amusement. And he's just and then so he managed to get all of the stroller inside. The door closed, the door shut. He turns at me and he says, "Thanks for watching." And I'm like, "What?" I'm standing there watching at him and I'm smiling. And then he says, "What are you smiling at?" And I'm like, "What the f like what?" It's just a, broad daylight, nothing. And I'm like, and the guy had tattoos on his face, that's just that's a little sign. But anyway, I was like, I'm looking at him and I said, "I smiled because you said thanks for watching." And I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." And I said, "No, no, no." And then he said, "You didn't see me struggle?" And I said, "Oh, you were struggling?" And I was like genuinely surprised because I didn't, for me, it was just a dad with a stroller and a baby inside. It's not a big deal, right? I wouldn't ask for help. I wouldn't like expect people to hold the door for me and be all of all this courtesy and things like that. And I was like, no, no, dude, like I didn't know you were struggling, so I walked away. And like 5 minutes later, I was angry. I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would you expect me to hold the door for you? Like, what am I, your mom or grand? Like, why? I only hold it if I want to, and I didn't want to, and that's not a problem. And I was okay, but then I was like, I had like sheer amusement. Like, what the like what? Like the guy was angry with me because he was expecting me to help him, and I didn't. Well, ta-da, too bad. Sorry. Well, sorry, but no sorry. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that there was something down underneath that. Your reaction to his anger, apparent anger towards you, was a little bit confusing, eh?
well, I was confused, and then probably there was a little fear. I think some part of me was scared, but I was more confused than scared because I was like, what? What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. But then the anger came. So that's that.
yeah, if I came back and I talked to him after that, I would probably be able to say things like, um, I don't know, like, what's wrong with you? Like, like, you see me for the first time. Why do you expect me, to do this for you?
Mm,
Why do you expect me to care about you? You know, give me freedom of not caring about you. Give me a freedom to not give a fuck about you. That kind of anger.
mm.
I don't know. That's too late, but
Can,
yeah,
can you can you imagine a story that he was feeling a little bit of frustration with his struggle, and that you
I
were an opportunity for him to project it outwards?
that's how I saw it. Yeah, I because I thought he was struggling, and because of that, whatever happened to be in his way, that would get it. It could have been a dog, a cat, a human, doesn't matter.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it just happened to be me. And
So was there any idea in you that maybe you misread the situation when you didn't see him as struggling and you didn't therefore offer to hold the door open? I mean, I imagine you would have held the door open for him had it been obvious that he was struggling.
yeah, 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 exactly. Because nothing told me he's struggling because
Right.
the
So it was
baby is in the stroller. He's like, I mean, it's not like it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
cold
yeah.
outside. It's just,
Yeah.
there's no sense of
Did you have
urgency.
any reaction though? What I'm saying is, did you react at all to the fact that you didn't recognize that he was struggling?
Oh yeah, I thought I was insensitive. I thought I was I was too self-focused or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So was your anger that came on later anything to do with that?
No, my anger was like I and I still stand by that. It's just like I hate it. I felt the violence for me from him was that he expected me to do something for him, and he got angry because I didn't do it for him, but he didn't ask me explicitly. And I need to be able to do whatever I want. But then yeah, but then he has the right to respond. But it's just like, because for me it is a violence. It is a form of violence. If I expect you something to do and I don't tell you, but you don't do it to me, and then I just become angry with you and I tell you, Vince, what's wrong with you? Why don't you, did blah, 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 X, Y,
Yeah,
Z?
yeah.
And
Okay, so that's
I,
outwardly focused. So what if we presume that your anger was covering up something in you? What would it be covering up? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
well, that I'm insensitive, I am cold, I
Yes,
am,
yes.
I am egoistic, self-fucking centered. I don't care about other people, and I just care about myself
Hmm.
and my coffee and my spiritual blah 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 blah. That's the thing.
So can you see that to focus your anger out on him is a way of avoiding that?
Yes, but Vince, come on, like I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it was, it's almost like I am not that fluffy and friendly and all that as I think sometimes I can be, but I also like I want to be able to be an asshole. And and this is especially um I want to be able to offer my help when I when I want to do so, right? I like if you I don't want to be forced into helping by manipulation, by three-legged cats, by beggars, by any of that. I don't want that. Unless there's something inside of me that wants to help, I'll help. If not, fuck off. That kind of thing. And I want to be able to take ownership of that. Like that's maybe I'm friendly to just a number of people in this world, not all of them. That's fine. But I am
But
not.
you said if you recognized that he was struggling, you would have
Mm,
offered help.
yeah. Either that, or if he asked me, can you please hold the door for me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So under a whole lot of circumstances, you would have been very willing to help. But
Uh,
then,
y-
but then when circumstances turned out that you didn't, you then saw yourself as an arsehole who was insensitive to the situation, etc. And then you got angry about that attitude towards yourself, not about him.
Oh no, I think I get it. Because it was I relate very much to this. If someone asks me directly, I will do it. But when they expect me to read their mind, I will get pissed. But but there was something in this, like he expected you to read his mind.
well, it was
That
more
he
than my.
is,
He was expecting me to read the physical
yeah,
signs.
this situation, yeah. But
Vince, sorry, Bianca. Vince, do you like? Because I think I am focused on one thing, and I don't see your perspective. Like, That anger at my anger at me, is that important? Or I mean, is it something I'm just ignoring, or is it?
Yeah, yeah, it is important because our natural inclination is to believe that we're angry about something external, and we never are. We're always angry at something internal.
Mm,
And unless we can recognize that, we,
That's what I was going to. But I am angry because this expectation to read others' minds was implanted in me, and I am expecting myself to read others' minds and read the situation and shaming myself for this.
yeah, yeah. When of course it's under certain circumstances, of course, the clues are not big enough for you to read. So it's perfectly reasonable that you didn't get whatever he was thinking. Yet, in the case of Andre, he felt bad about himself for not reading that, even though it was reasonable that he didn't read it. But he still felt bad about himself, and then he got angry in order to not feel bad. I mean, of
Yes,
course, it's a
because
different.
this expectation is planted in me and becomes a part of me. So I am angry at
Yeah,
myself, at
yes,
this, me expecting myself to read the
yes,
situation.
yes,
I react with anger because I'm protecting myself. Hey,
yes. Of course, of
I
course.
didn't read the situation. I didn't have it in me at this moment to
Well,
read
we
the
can go
situation.
one further here, and that is that it probably wasn't reasonable for you to be able to read that expectation. The clues were too subtle, or something, or maybe you were distracted. Whatever it was, that it is an unreasonable expectation that you should be able to read his mind. Yet that's what you reacted to, the idea that you should have been able to. So what I'm saying is, in a way, a broad sense of saying is that it's never about what happens out there. It's never about the situation that arises. It's always about what triggers it. And what triggered your anger wasn't the external situation. But that's where it was focused as a protective device, as a way of not looking at or not accepting or not recognizing what was going on inside.
yeah. So basically, he said, in indirect terms, he said, "You're bad because you didn't help me," and I was like,
Yes,
and
exactly. Yeah.
I responded with confusion first, but then yeah, I got back angry at
Well,
him
that's
because
not really what he said.
who?
The guy was really saying, I am unable to express my need, what I need, and I expected you to understand my need
To
so
guess
you
it.
can support me.
So more like a child.
Yeah, well, yes.
So you think me feeling bad has nothing to do with it? It's more important than what the guy was not able to convey his need in certain terms to me.
Well, I think what is important is your story, not his story. But I just wanted to reframe that often people get angry because they expect others to understand their needs, and it's very strong in couples and intimate relationship. But the partner expect you to understand what you need.
So he expected me to understand his need, and I expected him to understand that I don't understand his need unless clearly spoken to me.
Yeah. Well, everyone is responsible of his needs and his well-being. And after you are free to answer my needs or not. That's your freedom.
Then why would you get angry? Why would I get angry if someone came up to me with their needs and I don't want to, well, I don't want to do anything about your needs. I don't have the, whatever, I don't have the resources, the time. I don't have, I'm not there for your needs.
Yeah,
How can I
that's
help
a
you?
rationalization. Yeah, your anger was about an unreasonable expectation you had of yourself.
Or maybe you were hurting, or you felt hurt in an instant. You felt hurt and got angry because either you were hurt in that moment because you didn't realize there was a need, or you were just hurt that he didn't realize that you also need help and you're hurting, and so you got angry. I don't know if that resonates.
It kind of resonates because my recent response to anger is like almost childish kind of confusion and a sense of surprise and bewilderment. Like when he was like, "Ugh," like he was angry with me, I was almost like like almost like when you yell at a child and the child is like, what the, like, there's no anger in response. It's more like and it's not a fear. It's like I don't know if there's a word for that. It's like confusion plus like uh, frustration. Like I don't understand why you're so angry all of a sudden
Well,
with me at me.
the word guilt comes to mind. There may be some guilt in there that you felt that you should have. Da dum, whatever.
Hmm.
Or maybe you just got a fright.
Maybe he kicks my ass because he had tears tattooed on his face, so he's probably a criminal.
You just should have said, when he said to you, thanks for watching, you should have said, I'm here all week.
Yeah, I mean,
We always
I
think of the good answers afterwards, don't we?
yeah.
So
Listen, mate.
another aspect to this is the impressions that we get. So it's obvious that when you saw the tattoo, you formed an opinion,
Yes. And
and
when I
that
saw a child, I form an opinion too.
yeah, and so those opinions color our reactions for sure. So
Yeah, if
maybe
you didn't
you
have it,
saw the tattoo and you see and you have an impression that he's going to be a bit more aggressive, say, and therefore that makes him more competent to cope with the door. Why would he want help? Why would he be vulnerable enough to ask for help when he presents with a tattoo and he should be macho or something, whatever? Who knows? I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm just making up a story. Yeah,
it's just amazing. Such a simple interaction of two human beings, and there's so many things that can come out of it.
absolutely. Yeah. Mm.
Hmm. Well, yeah. If anyone wants to grab the microphone, feel free.
Well, I think the complexity arises only within you, because otherwise
Thank-
nothing really happened. You're in the bus, someone leaves something, he expresses something, and that's it. So
Sure.
nothing happened really. So
No, no,
all
no.
of this complexity is within you.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing really happened. Just a big bang.
No, something happened, but I'm not denying what you lived. I'm saying all of these stories within you.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the point of underlying now that these stories within me? Of course they are within me. Like, if they were not, I wouldn't be telling them.
Yeah,
I just,
and it's the value is in not in the story, but rather in recognizing the response to the story. I mean, we can take any microcosm of interaction, or seeming interaction, interact with a dog or a tree. It doesn't matter. We can take any microcosm, and that complexity exists always. But what we're doing here is not so much unraveling that complexity, but recognizing that complexity, and so allowing our responses to become different. Because here's an interesting one, because we are completely and totally our responses. We are the experiencing that happens.
yeah, and so my question is there anything that I have to
No,
do with this experience, take away from this experience? Make sure that next time I do blah blah blah, make
no,
sure that
no,
next
no,
time
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
do
no.
blah blah blah. Or just leave it as is. I told you a story. We all sort of responded to
Yeah.
a story. That's it.
And no, well, it's more than just that. And that is that the investigation that we did into that story changes the likely future situations. Simply
Yeah.
recognizing the complexity of it, and that the actuality for you isn't in the story, but in the response to the story, right? That I rather imagine that next time it happens, or a version of that happens, there won't be the anger, because you'll recognize that that expectation was unreasonable, that you could read his mind, that the clues were too subtle for you to recognize. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, there's always this idea, I guess, that I would be so present in that situation or in the next or whatever situation. I would be so present. I would be aware of everything that I'm responding with, and I'll be sort of spot on. Okay, now that's anger, that's fear, that's subcon da, 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 and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
none of that would escape my attention, and then I would be able to, fully integrate whatever happened in the moment, and there would be no need to investigate anything because done.
Is this a version of your humor to go to the nth degree and imagine the totality of the possibility? What about just going one step closer to it?
Well, yeah, because it's like it's the perfectionism speaking. Yeah, I have to. I That's why I asked like if there's anything I should do with this story because part of me just wants to whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe I'll learn from it. Maybe I won't.
yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
I,
Yeah, yeah, true. And I think the investigation of it that just happened is more likely to make learning possible than dismissing it without investigation.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's
Yeah.
important to remember that the learning happened in the um, sensing the emotion, sensing the body, moment to moment. This is where learning happens. It's not really in the mental dimension of understanding the
Mm.
psychology and
Yeah.
the
It's
behavior
not
of
in the
people.
story, it's in the response to the
In,
story. Yeah.
yeah, it's to feel. So the feeling is the doing, and the feeling is the change.
Yep.
But I
And
just,
that's a big
yeah.
one. It's in the feeling that changes us. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just remember that my Dennis spotted it, and I think my original response to that, and I sort of jumped over it, was to sort of stop and look at him and just cry. If I really let that happen, and I would just stand there and cry. It would be so fucking inadequate. Like, but that was my response to his anger in that situation because I was like out of the blue for me. I was like, and I had my body wanted to respond in that way, like, why the, like, why? But no words. It's just like the baby just goes into this. I would just cry.
Yep.
Yeah. But
And that,
So
I couldn't afford it.
why don't do it, you know? This is the point.
Well, there are
Why
a few
not
reasons.
just cry?
Well, they'll
I
call
know,
me an
I know why,
ambulance.
because social, because all of these masks that we put when we go outside or in a relationship, but the more you let the feeling really be themselves, the more your life starts to really shift and change naturally.
I am I am getting there, but very slowly because I am very embarrassed of that. Uh, because yeah, like you said, I don't like I have an idea about how I should respond, and
yeah,
my
yeah,
body responds in a
So
way
that's
that
what happens. So you feel the crying coming up, but you
yeah,
feel the embarrassment that is stronger than the sadness, and you feel both in you. You are like there's this tension constantly within us between an infinity of different polarities everywhere. So this is what you have to feel. And that thought about do good, bad, should or not should do, just feel this embarrassment, feel this fear of the guy, the willing to help, the cry, the embarrassment, and all of this, just feeling
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
actually, if I not fantasize, but the way I think I would have responded if I didn't have this um um ideas saying and masks like you said. The way I would have responded, probably I'd just cry and then I would just sort of hug him and tell him like, oh, like I'm so sorry. I like you. I feel confused and scared now, and I want to be close to you, but I think that tattoo and the baby. I mean, I don't know. It's just I think my
Yeah.
body would respond like a baby would respond. I would just
Okay, okay. So look, this is really important here. So if you had have recognized and acknowledged that emergence of a crying response, right? None of the other round the park stuff that you went through would have been necessary. All of that was an avoidance of that first thing. So recognizing it. Now you don't have to actually do it, right? We're not saying that there you were standing in the shop crying because of his response, of your reaction to his response. No, but recognizing the emergence of that emotion takes you straight to the reality of your thing. You didn't have to go through all of the other stuff. All the other stuff was you ran out the door and around the park and came back feeling angry. None of that was necessary had you recognized that crying response first. All of that other stuff was a way of avoiding that crying stuff because you've got stories about that's not appropriate.
yeah. And I have never seen, adult men respond to each other's anger in this way. And it's just, yeah, because there's it's hard for me to marry the bodily response because the body wants to do something, and then the mind is like, "What are you fucking crazy? No, no
Yeah, yeah,
way."
yeah,
But if I just let my body do it, then I would just do it. But I guess it takes. I've never seen this kind of
yeah, yeah.
response.
Okay, so recognize that you don't have to let your body do it. You just recognize that that's the inclination for the body to do it. And that tells you some truth.
Hmm.
whereas the suppression of that and all of the other stuff that comes from it is the lie.
Yeah. But then I don't know what to do. Like he responds, I have a bodily response to that. I don't act on it. I just recognize it.
Yeah.
And then what do I do? Do I tell him?
Well,
Do
there's
I?
ways. I mean, we're talking about skillful ways here, you know. When he said, thanks for watching, obviously he was being sarcastic, saying, why didn't you help me?
Which I didn't get the first
Right.
time he said it.
You didn't get the sarcasm in it, but
No, no.
you use that kind of humor yourself to cover up stuff,
No,
don't you?
but yes, but exactly. But because I didn't know what was happening. For me, him
Yeah.
saying thank you for watching took me time to like,
Yes.
that's not
Yeah.
true. He's
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
sarcastic.
So that's part of the what eventuated as well, wasn't it? That misinterpretation of not recognizing the sarcasm in the statement that he made. Yeah. So a simple response would have been, "Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry." Not that you really feel sorry, but that's a response that would have disarmed him, maybe.
Maybe. Because in Canada everyone says sorry. So it's not really
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. You didn't
I
need to
think
defend against him. Yeah.
yeah, I think that authenticity is very powerful. Can be sadness, can be tenderness, can be anger. If it's really authentic and spontaneous, it's very powerful, and often it's very healing in whatever situation it is. And for the useful mean, often you can do a repattern your mind, and that's doing some kind of forgiveness process where you bring back the whole situation, and you imagine how you would have acted without the mind telling you anything, and you feel what happened and you imagine what happened, and you try to take both position of the guy, position of you sitting and just feeling the whole experience. And this is how you repattern your mind to different kind of way of thinking and behavior.
Mm.
Because the way you say that, how your body reacts, I feel a lot of tenderness in it. So this tenderness, if you do this kind of process, you do it for yourself, right? You do it because you want to feel this tenderness going toward this guy in this situation. And by doing this, which is you forgive for yourself, which is you feel this tenderness, and this tenderness that you will feel by doing this is the gift for you. That's why it has nothing to do with the other guy. That's why it's so important to understand that you do this to feel this tenderness within you.
Which you're feeling now.
Yeah, that's tenderness. That's exactly what I felt back then. That kind of it's just the mind says, dude, you're inadequate. This is like a not an adequate response to someone being angry, and but I, that's the way my body responds. My body responds with this kind of like I that's why I said I wanted to hug the guy actually.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's like vulnerable tenderness
yeah,
and confusing and confusement.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So a story popped up here that see what you were responding to with your tenderness was his vulnerability, which he covered up by his sarcastic response. And so he
Hmm.
was feeling a little inadequate with the door,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And he
yeah,
covered that up by coming up with this "thanks for watching" comment,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And but
yeah.
your response, your tenderness response, was really a response to his vulnerability, his tenderness, even though he quickly covered it up,
Me too.
presented his tattoo to the world or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe it was like we both did it. Like we both played the macho kind of thing
yeah,
scenario.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
we were not like we were in totally different world. But then you know, no tattoos, baby, na. I'm a macho.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And
And
that's the
and maybe
madness
in
of the
two
word, you
weeks,
know.
Yeah, maybe in
It
2 weeks'
just
time, this will be you with your baby in a stroller.
At the end of December, hopefully, yeah.
it was
3 weeks
just an
then.
engagement of it was just an engagement of two broken hearts.
Yes.
That's all. It reminds me of when we were kids. By the way, it's not a unique experience what you're describing. Most of us have had it. But it's like when you're a kid and someone hurts you and you want to run home to your parents and cry and say, I've been hurt, and they'll tell you it's okay. You get a hug. If you're lucky, you get a hug and you're told it's okay. So you realize you can handle these things. Most of us never get that. So you suppress it and it comes up 40 years later, when you're in a supermarket and someone's pulling a trolley through it. But it's the same thing. The learning is you've recognizing you were hurt. You've come to us and you've shared your hurt, and we've told you it's okay. You can handle it, and you'll handle it differently next time.
Yeah.
For the hug.
And we love you.
There
We
is
love you.
there is a good vision of relationship with there is only two emotions really. There is only or two reaction in relationship. There is an expression of tenderness and love and welcoming and warmth, or there is a call for love, a call to be welcome, a call to be seen. And that's the only response that exists in relationship. There is no other. Anger is not anger. Anger it's I need help. I want to be seen. So all of the words of negative emotions, it's really it's an illusion.
So,
It's a
David,
way
you
to
just said
approach the
something.
relationship.
Yeah, you just said something there that I found really, really interesting. It's like you've given everyone a little key to, I won't say success, but proper human engagement. So one of them is a call for love, and the other is the expression of love. So our response in every situation would be to offer love, because that addresses both of those in the other.
If you can. And if you can't, it's because that's exactly what you need to.
But in
So
Bamboozle's scenario there, it's a real tip though. You can't get it wrong if you just express that love.
yeah, exactly. But he couldn't in the moment. So that
No,
was
of
his
course.
part. That was his part that needed love
Call for
also.
love.
He said, "Fuck you! I need love too. So you give me. And
Yeah.
don't no, you give me love. I need." To. So there, there was those two emptiness meeting and kind of crushing together. But afterward, you see, oh shit, he wanted just help, just a guy that is struggling and life is hard, and that's just, you could have helped me. And me too, I could have, and if I would have helped, I would have feel very good also. So we just both miss an opportunity, It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then sometimes it's so hard to see the need, even if you want to share a love. Actually, no. If you want to share a love, you will just share it. You will not need a request or asking. But yeah, in that case, it was it was so funny to see how the body, but the body knows what to do, but the mind says, no, 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 no. We'll do something else.
Well, I'm somewhat consumed with now ending this meeting so I can go with my wife and walk the dog. She's hassling me there. She's insisting. So that's what life is saying to do to me right now. Okay.
Um, uh, I wanted to say that in all these stories today, I saw this how caring and shame are both sides of one coin. There is no caring without shame, no shame without
Yeah.
caring.
And I'd just like to add to that that even anger, everything is an expression of love. Take that one with you. That's interesting. Mm. Okay, everybody, I've got to go. See you later. Thank you. Thank you for these wonderful feelings I get.